Hello, I'm Sam from Just Obsessed. The focus of my channel is to share and educate on how to buy less, buy better. Not necessarily about buying less things, it's about buying something that fits its purpose perfectly and serves you for as long as possible, and that includes maintaining it. One thing that I think there's a lot of information out there is how to look after and care for your boots and shoes. And rightly so, they are usually a fairly substantial investment. We wear them a lot, and they are usually made from leather, which is a semi-living material and is known to last longer with regular maintenance and care. But what about our clothes? Well, if you're watching this channel, you either do or you are considering investing in your clothes as well as your footwear, and similarly to your footwear, how you look after and maintain your wardrobe will impact how long it lasts. Now, this video isn't going to be like, oh, make sure you baby your clothes and be super gentle with them, because that's not a real genuine reflection of how I wear and maintain my clothes. It's about simple ways that you can look after your clothes and make it part of your regular usage to help your clothes last a bit longer instead of just going through the motions of washing the clothes. I guess for those of you who care, I am just a humble house husband. I'm not a professional clothes washer or maintainer. All I can share with you, all I'm going to share with you is my personal methods that I use, products that I use, and how that works out for me. If you have any suggestions or you think that anything works for you that I'm not doing, please suggest it down below. I'm always curious and always want to learn. Also, I want to be clear that this is Australian specific. I'm not sure exactly what products are available in your region, but try and find something that is as similar as possible. We're going to start from the head and then move down towards toes, but we are going to first start with the products that I use in my washing. The products that I use in my washing are probably one of the most important parts of my caring process. I've experimented with a lot of different formulas and combinations of products, and there is a combination of 3 products that I find gives me the best outcome. I'm also very conscious of what I put on my clothes, not just for the longevity of the clothes and the fabric that makes up those clothes, but also because I have fairly sensitive skin, and so does my wife, and I don't want the fabrics to irritate me or anything that's on the fabric to irritate me. Hopefully these products are available wherever you are. For washing powder, I use Liquid by Omo called Touch of Comfort. It's got a pinky label on it, and I find that they even offer these concentrates that you can now refill them with, which saves overall plastic. I find that the product washes really well. It's important that it washes out really well and it doesn't leave any sort of slimy residue or soapy feeling. It's a really great product. I also tend to only use half a cap even when it's a really full load, and it's only doing about half of the job of cleaning the clothes. The other half is being done by an antibacterial product, and the one I like has a bit of eucalyptus oil in it. It seems to work the best for me. This one removes 99.9% of bacteria, or so they say, and bacteria buildup on clothes is responsible, in my opinion, for a lot of the sort of underarm staining and the general smell that builds up on your clothes over time. I highly recommend putting this in your clothes washing in general if you're not doing so already. I like the one from Sards, but in this case I just buy whatever's on special and has a similar sort of ingredients list, and once again I put about half a cap in with the laundry liquid. The final product I use is for whites and for stains, and basically it's just a stain remover. There's nothing worse than having a white shirt that isn't actually white, and the best way to avoid that is by washing whites together, but also to add a stain remover or a whitener if the shirts are looking a bit worse for wear. I have heard that these kinds of things are quite hard on your clothes, things like optical whiteners. That term gets used a lot, but again, I tend to only use like a quarter of a scoop at most, and that does more than enough for my purposes. So I think it's just how much you're using and how often you're using it. I'm not using that with every wash necessarily. Okay, now on to the first topic, hats. Now, hats can be a lot of different things to a lot of different peoples, from a beanie to a bowler cap. And depending on what your style is, you'll probably want to investigate a bit more specifically in what caring means for your hat, especially if you're into something like a beaver bowler hat. For my collection, I have a few cotton caps like this one, a few wool beanies, and one large brim hat. The cotton caps get washed in a normal wash cycle, which is either 30 or 40 degrees Celsius, with a spin cycle between 800 and 1200 RPM. Basically, that's just my standard cottons wash. When they are done, I hang them out, and then when they're dry, I put them on my head like this, and give them a bit of shape back into the sort of top part of the hat and stretch it out again. Then I just store them in my closet. Nothing special. I used to have these little cool hooks that they hung on my wall, but I haven't got around to doing that yet in the new house. My beanies are wool, so it would be a gentle cold wash, again hang dry. I tend to store these in my drawer drawers with a few cedar balls to stop any smell or mildew or anything like that building up. Also, it's really important to ensure that if you're storing something like wool through summer, that it's really dry before going back into the closet. The big hat with the brim, this one I just brush clean with a clean cloth or a brush, but most of the time it was stored on a hook. Currently, again, it's on top of my drawers, so it's going to stay nice and clean. Now onto something that you'll be washing a little bit more regularly. So t-shirts tend to be washed quite a lot because they're worn quite a lot. For mine, I like to wash them with light colors only. I guess that's kind of across the board. In my experience, the colors last better this way and they look better for longer. I have white t-shirts and navy t-shirts and I wash white and navy respectively. As my shirts are all cotton, they go in that same 30 to 40 degree wash depending on how dirty they are. 30 is more sort of a typical wash. 40 is when they feel like they might need a bit more, though I believe that the warmer wash may break down your fabric a little bit more, at least in theory. Again, I'm not a scientist, I just go between them depending on how I'm feeling. Once again, I like to hang them dry, but recently we've moved into an apartment, so I've been using a dryer, which isn't necessarily ideal, but we don't have room for a clothes dryer, so it is what it is. My dryer is a heat pump one and it's a really quite a nice one hopefully, so I hope it doesn't change the clothes too much. I also tend to do it so that the clothes don't get too hot, and it's the heat that makes things change and shrink, and that's the thing you want to avoid. So far so good. I've been really enjoying using the dryer, but yeah, just be aware of using too much heat if you've got no other option like I do. Finally, with t-shirts, I do actually iron my t-shirts occasionally, just when they look like they need it. It flattens them out. It actually makes the fabric a little bit more comfortable in some way, though to be fair, I probably wouldn't do this more than once a month for any given t-shirt. As for storage, I just fold them up and shove them in a drawer. Cubes there now, and they tend to stay mostly nice and flat, but again, they sometimes get a line along that fold, which is fine. You just iron it out if you've got the time. Next up is your long sleeves, your button-up shirts and the like, and again I'd follow the same advice as with my t-shirt, washing with light colors between 30 and 40 degrees depending on how you're looking. My favorite way to dry my shirt is on a hanger straight out of the wash and letting them dry slowly, as that fabric actually tends to get less wrinkles if I do it this way, and then I slam it straight in the closet hanging up. Sometimes I give them an iron, but only if they need it. Again, it can help get the fabric to sit a little bit nicer, be a bit more crisp, but also I find them hanging them in the closet from wet to dry makes them about 85% of the work, so it's good enough for most of my purposes, unless I'm wearing them like under a sports jacket or a suit, or it looks particularly bad. I find that using this combination of products and washing means that I don't get any deodorant buildup under any of the armpits of any of my shirts, or any staining around the neckline, which I have had prior to using this combination of products. The final thing that I wash is basically my jeans and chinos, which are done in the same way, though a lot less frequently. I tend to wash these things when needed, which is once every month or so, depending on how often I'm wearing it and often how hot it is outside. I'm not in the no wash camp at all. I feel like dirt and bacteria buildup on fabric is only going to degrade the fabric over time, though I know there are a lot of purists out there that believe in no washing at all, unless you're doing it for some sort of specific reason that you want your jeans to look, or your chinos to look a very specific way, like a high contrast fade for example. I would just say wash your pants. When they are washed, again, I like to hang them across the clothes dryer, nice and flat, keeping them drying gradually in the air. And to store them, I actually fold them in thirds and put them again in a drawer. But if you wanted to fold them with the crease down the front, if they were a pleated trouser, or if you just wanted to hang them in general, then that's also a great option. If you do want a line, start with the waistband undone, then pick them up by the hems, corners, and then get the hanger and thread it through, and then over, and then hang them up. This means that there will be a crease down the front of the trouser, so when you unfold them and put them on, you'll see that creases down the front, aligned with the pleat if you've done it correctly. If you want to hang them without a crease, then you just fold them by the hip and then thread them through and over, and once again hang them up. Now, knitwear is a tricky thing to wash because wool of all forms can be a tricky she-beast to tame. Ideally though, you want to wash your wool quite infrequently, but there will be a time that you're going to want to put it through the wash. For this, I do it on the most delicate and cold wash available. My washing machine actually has a wool mode, so I use that. As for products, I tend to use about half what I use for my normal products, so about 1/4 cup of the liquid and 1/4 cup of the antibacterial stuff. It always makes me a little bit bit nervous when I put my wool through the wash because I have felted things before, but it's going to happen eventually. It's just kind of inevitable when you're washing things. Hang to dry and let them dry really slowly, even more than any other thing we've talked about so far. It's about adding as little heat as possible to the fabric, or that's what it seems to be to me. Finally, on the clothes front, we've got your suits and suit trousers, which are likely to be made out of wool, but even if they're not, I would highly recommend dry cleaning. I have honestly put a suit from Target through a wash, but it cost me about $40, so I wasn't really worried about it. But for anything more than that, it's going to be a dry clean. I probably don't do this regularly enough, but for my current uses, which is very infrequently, it allows me to air the jacket out in between wears and therefore dry clean less frequently. I'm mostly just worried about bad dry cleaning experiences, which we've all heard of. I would recommend that the best way to get around this is talking to your friends who are into suits and see what they recommend and who they've used in the past. It's the only way that I've found to get some sort of reliable outcome. I'm lucky to have some people in my network that are really into those kinds of things, and they have great recommendations. And I really don't want to ruin a nice suit or a nice suit jacket. They are an investment, and it's worth investing in the cleaning and maintenance of the suit. Again, I don't think dirt and bacteria buildup on the fabric is good for the clothes. And that's all for clothes in terms of caring. So let's talk about shoes. I thought about making shoe care and leather care in general a separate series unto itself, but I think we can keep it simple and take a quick approach to things without needing a full video. To me, there are really three main ways to approach leather. You've got white sneakers, you've got your smooth leather, and you've got your suede leather. Each should be treated in a similar but different way to ensure that they look the best they possibly can and last for as long as they possibly can. My basic approach to leather is it's a natural material. It was once living, so it's about making sure that that leather has the hydration it needs, but without clogging the pores with things like polishes or silicone sprays. It's a bit of a less is more approach, but it's about understanding that it's natural material and you want to keep it as natural as possible to keep it lasting as long as possible. Starting out with white sneakers, my current pair are from Crown Northampton, which use a natural uncoated veg tan leather and is probably not the traditional coated pure white leather of a traditional white sneaker, but in my opinion the approach remains the same. If you get them covered in dirt or even they get covered in a bit of water spotting, I take a microfiber cloth, get some warm water and rub down the entire shoe to get it nice and clean and to sort of even out those water spots. Get the moisture nice and even and remove any leather spotting that may occur throughout that process as well. Get around the edge of the sole as well. You can do the bottom of the sole with a brush if you really want to make them look super clean. Once the shoes are dry, I apply a neutral or a no color leather conditioner from Saphir. I do this with a lint-free cloth or just the end of my fingers. I let it dry for 5 to 10 minutes and then I buff it off with a horseshoe brush. That's all it takes. Smooth leather is much the same, but in this case, you'll probably be dealing with some pigment or the color of the leather, and you'll be wanting to preserve or restore it if it gets a bit scuffed or marred. The process starts exactly the same. Wipe off the boots or shoes, remove all the dirt and grime. If they're really dirty, you can use a stiff brush to get them even cleaner if that is needed. If the leather is in really bad shape, I apply a product called Saphir Renovateur, which restores the leather, followed by a really good brush and then a pigmented cleaner from Saphir. This helps to restore and add color back into the hides, and it also adds a lot more moisture into that leather, so it's like a double whammy of adding moisture into that leather. I like to apply it in a very thin layer across the leather, this time using a cloth because your hands are going to get pretty dirty or colored up if you're not using one. I like to wait 5 to 10 minutes between each step, and then after I've applied the polish, I use a clean cloth of the same type to wipe down the boot and remove any of that extra polish buildup. And then I once again like to finish with a horsehide brush to get that really nice glowy shine. And finally, we have suede or fluffy leather. Now, there isn't really much you can do about paper suede or that fake suede, but if you have a good quality suede, it's just as important to look after it because it is literally just the leather flipped over the other way, especially if you wear it as I wear mine, which is often in the rain and in the wet. To start and to get it clean, I like to use a firm bristled nylon brush to brush across the entire shoe, removing down any dirt and any grime. I don't like those wire brushes that most people sell as suede brushes because I find them a little bit too hard, and I find that like a stiff nylon brush or even like a firm toothbrush works a little bit better for me. The toothbrush is going to take you a while to get it done, but you know, it could be used if you wanted to. Then for the conditioner, I like to use a suede spray. This one again is the Renovateur from Sophia. It serves the same purpose as the creams that we've applied to the smooth leather, and it's just to recondition and to re-moisturize the leather. I like to use just a natural one with no color, but they do come in color if you're needing to restore a bit of color to your suede. Once again, wait 5 to 10 minutes after you've sprayed it on, and then give them a nice brush once more to get those suede fibers nice and uniform and fluffy, just like all good suede should be. And there you have it, my complete guide of how I look after and maintain my clothes, at least from a cleaning perspective. Hopefully there is something helpful in there that you can use to keep your stuff in better condition, something you can adopt in a low maintenance kind of way. I feel that it's a part of responsible ownership of a garment. It's the thing that you agree to when you buy something that is a little bit more buy less, buy better as an item. You agree to keep that item in as good quality and condition as possible to help it last as long as possible. That way you can actually buy less. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Links up in the description as always. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Cheers.